All right, here we go again. Buckle up. Rough roads ahead. It's kind of windy out here, and it's overcast in Overland Park, Kansas. I don't know. That wind makes it kind of not so pleasurable to take a walk. I might go back in. It's picking up. I never knew there was no limitations on counseling. Never knew that, insurance wise. But when I was in Texas, when I got injured last time, I got counseling, and they struggled, or they not, yeah, they structured the the counseling. I thought it was insurance based, but here to find out, it wasn't insurance based. It was just what that person was structuring. Where'd the sun go? So I said, I was talking to my counselor, and I said, what would they accept? What would be too much? And he said, twice a day. I'm like, twice a day? Well, you'd wonder why somebody would need that much counseling. Well, I mean, we're not going to be anywhere near that, but I'm trying to get my blood pressure down and get my weight down. They had a program like this in the military. You just keep walking all day. Trying to lose my weight here. Drop the blood pressure naturally. So bizarre, though. The day before I got sick again, I was like walking and thinking I'm going to be, this is going to heal next week. I'm going to be fine. And then like something's like your tinnitus is real low. You got some, you know, drip down your throat. But I'm thinking it's like it's allergies. Right. But next day everything. And I went to the hospital and they're like, oh, it's not an infection. It's already minimizing those feely things. I couldn't figure out if that was neurological or sinus or what. Sure hope I can get this thing down. It would seem like it was doing better a little earlier. So we'll see. I messed up taking the antibiotics yesterday. I put vitamins in around it. You're not supposed to do that because it inhibits it. Hope to get well enough to get to physical therapy. That was my hope. That's interesting. They have a camera on the outside here. Like a door cam, but it's a camera. It's interesting. Wi-Fi cam. Yep. All right. So, just waiting on the next administration faux pas. We don't know for sure, but apparently that somebody was deported based upon being a Tren de Arrega member that had tattoos that said grandma, mom, or something like that. That could be an issue. Get rid of that spirit. So I was pretty frank with the counselor. I thought I could be, more honest with her. It's just, she knows what she's doing. She's a good person. So again, I think some of my hearing has returned. I don't know for sure, but my ears still feel like there's something. It's like it feels like an infection. But boy, it got a little dreary out here. I seem like I slowed down. I stopped drinking coffee, so I don't have as much energy. And I'm trying to lose this weight and drop my blood pressure at the same time. Because the blood pressure medicine I was on messes up my the blood pressure medicine I was on was messing up my sinuses. How you doing? So I got a sinus infection. So now I got to walk to drop that weight real quick. So getting off that medicine safe. I think I can get my blood pressure back down because I've done it before, and it looks like it's down anyway. How you doing? So I'm hopefully going to drop this weight. No, I was doing pretty good the day before this happened. I mean, everything was perfect, just about. I was just saying, pretty soon I think this will come back together. My body will work a little bit better, and then it kicked in and went to the hospital, and they were like, no. I couldn't even think like, hey, just go to another place, right? Or the next day, go to urgent care and just keep going until you get your stuff. Like, I'm trying to figure out how it happened. I'm thinking, is it the medicine I was taking, or right? Well, it was obviously an infection at this point. They're telling me it's not. That caused me not to, seek help. I remember thinking I could feel this, thick mucus, and I just couldn't get anywhere. Especially I'm on the corticosteroids, that allows the infections to increase. Couldn't even think to tell them that. I couldn't think to present it any better than I did. That's again the suppression, the oppression. I mean, if this wasn't happening, it should be a pretty good week, and I'd be in physical therapy probably. So I guess hopefully, I think I'm dropping the weight already. I think it's working. How you doing? So I was talking to my counselor about. I said, when I was in the Baptist church or even in the contemporary Christian church, you wouldn't have three young ladies visit a man. It's not something you generally do. So the Mormons have some three young ladies that wanted to visit me. They asked me to their church, but again, if I didn't have this hearing issue going on right now, I'd probably take them up on it. I'd probably have to stand at the back or something. I'd tell them I have to stand. I can't sit too well. I mean, I remember I was late fall. I was taking care of all the leaves and cleaning off the sidewalk, or something. Early fall, I guess. Right, and then boom, I was sick, and that's it. Went, and I remember I felt so good that I was just trying to schedule an appointment. And the next thing I come home, and my apartment, somebody had been in my apartment, and then that was it. I was no longer healthy. So I really, I'm just really, when I did this, I was somewhere I should have been 4 years ago. Again, if I had released my body 4 years ago, I wouldn't be stuck in this craziness right now. So I really need to just keep going with the treatment. I have no idea why I couldn't figure it out, other than them playing their game, right? No, I probably needed to do another round of steroid treatments and massage, and then get it released, right? And then I could deal with it from there. That was my plan. I just couldn't get anywhere, and then I forgot about it. And again, they're chasing me around doing all the crazy shit. Right. I mean, I don't know if it's going to work or not, to restore me to where my hearing was, at least. I wasn't the greatest, but it's way better than where I am now. Well, the question with the administration on the terrorism thing is, how do you define them as terrorists? And again, I'm saying narco terrorists exist. Well, there is I don't know what the leeway is on that. Again, it's an old law. And, there is, if they're on our soil, they have due process to a certain degree. Well, because you're actually, I think you're in like a district court law versus an immigration law, even though it involves immigration and deportation. Well, again, you can still do it. I'm not saying that it doesn't say, it obviously says you can do it, but like, what are you actually doing? Like this mother, she says, my kid's no terrorist. Says not, he doesn't even have a criminal history. I mean, I've heard that before too. I'll make sure I drink my water. What I'm being told inside, as far as kind of a mind thing, moving and grooving, is that if the church were to engage in that type of outreach, it would just be insanely difficult to manage. But I don't know if it would be or wouldn't. There's a lot of people in the church. Well, online, just online video chat. Availability. I mean, when you look at the Catholic Church, the number of people in the Catholic Church, there's all sorts of church people just sitting around all day. Well, I went to one and it had like a porn thing on there. It had nothing to do with religion. And then you go to the other ones and they're just AI chatbots. I thought I was talking to somebody, but no, I forgot that when I get like panic attacks real bad, that generally means I have an infection. So I never got myself. I should have got myself some medication, some antibiotic. I just couldn't get to it. I got no idea if this is permanent or not. This is just insane. If I hadn't done that the last 4 years, I'd already been released, from this, from the tightness and all that, and I'd have, been able to, better orchestrate my life. I believe it's still my ears are infected, so I understand. I believe it could, reverse itself. I actually believe my hearing is a little better than it was, but it's just not there yet. Just wish I could have got that medication right away when I went right into the hospital. Just say, hey, I got some issue. Like I told you, you just can't fire people for cause when you don't have anything. The FBI guy tried telling you all how it's done, right? That director guy, he said, that usually there's a process. In late February against the Trump administration. You could say that there's performance reviews. Yeah, you're They still haven't dissected the term DEI. Well, as far as that's a DEI fire. That person was a DEI, so they were fired for for being DEI. Like that means they're black, a woman. No, this just mounts up. I mean, the Supreme Court's already kind of weighed in. Former Trump attorney. Well, it's just one of the things that you're doing is you're getting rid of people that know the process. So you're replacing the people that don't know the process. That's why you're having trouble. Sure. Well, people work under different political bosses all the time. Apparently, you're not comfortable with that. Well, most of those people are just having this situation where they work for one administration, now the other administration comes in with a different point of view, and anybody that worked for the other administration under a certain point of view gets by. Right. So if somebody sat around doing nothing for all those years, they get to stay. Right. Sorry, friend. I'm very sorry. I mean, some of them may be people you need to let go. I don't know, but again, you got people that walk into court and it's just bullshit. I mean, a judge called you out on bullshit today. Well, that's a civilian attorney kind of trial attorney thing. You're in there using trial attorney methods on appeals courts and federal courts as far as restraining orders and injunctions. But it doesn't have any fact behind any of it. That's why you're failing. You go in there and you'll act like a trial attorney in front of a jury that you can dupe or possibly dupe. But you're in front of a judge requiring facts. I mean, I know what you're doing. It's all trial attorney bullshit. Low grade, for that matter. That's why you're having trouble. Thank you, Larry. You're firing, you've probably already fired people that can go in front of those courts and provide your case, but a lot of it you don't have a case. So it's like when you're a trial attorney, you don't have a case, you just bullshit. That's what you're doing. But it's going to infuriate the court because it's bullshit. Well, it's only going to last so long. Well, because they're just going to shut you down. It's only going to go so far. I mean, they're already grumbling about what the hell are you doing? It's like like an amateur in a professional court. Well, I guess some of your people told you they could handle all these cases, and then you just yell impeach, impeach, impeach because we're right and they're wrong. Actually, how many days or how many times a day can you rinse with a neti pot type device? That's what I should have used. I should have been doing it every day. Right. Now my ears are on fire. Right. They're probably red now. Right. It may not have been that red either because why? Because I had corticosteroid, right, which would reduce the inflammation. Shit, I didn't even think of it. Yes, sir. What? Ugh. Ugh. Oh. I'm taking my antibiotic like early in the morning and like around dinner time. I'm pretty close to my next dose. No, if this didn't happen, I'd be tickled pink. I'll tell you that right there. My physical condition isn't perfect, but again, I can't focus on it as much as I'd like to because of the issue. How you doing?
How you doing?
Yeah, that's mine. Lawrence Moore.
You saw what?
Lawrence Moore. All
Yes, sir. Yep, just gotta get a picture real quick. All right, good to go.
right, take care. You too. Some meal replacement bars. Once this, if I, whatever my hearing was, when the port has started and tinnitus was very low, I couldn't even hear it. If I get, if it was that right back today, I'd be like tickled pink with the condition of my life. I don't ask for much. So essentially, that's what's going on. You're walking into appellate courts, Supreme Court, and you're using trial attorney jury tactics. I mean, it's insane. Well, you're going to hit a wall at a certain point, all of you, a judicial wall, and nothing's going to go anywhere. Then you're going to tell liberal nutbags. Well, at a certain point, they're going to say you're incompetent. Yeah. God bless you, Larry. We agree, sir. But you can't. This is the way. Again, in other words, okay, let's look at the Constitution of the United States. The president is elected, the judges are appointed, the U.S. attorneys are appointed, the agents. We got all these people that are in these, various at least there's a check and balance within the system, and part of that is to make sure factions don't take over the United States. You could be a majority and still be a faction, even though, at this point, Trump definitely doesn't hold the majority. And I don't think anybody would have voted. I don't think the majority will vote for a Republican ever again for a while. So if you look at the Federalist Papers number 10, it's something called a faction. So if a faction, what they were worried about is that this is why the Constitution exists in all these branches and the checks and balances. If a faction takes over, then they disenfranchise everybody else outside the faction. That's why the kids in the family there just walked by. So that's why the Constitution exists. That's why the judges exist. So if the president and the legislative branch move being elected, if they move outside of what their lawful purpose is and what their constitutional purpose is, then the judge checks them. So again, the idea where a judge is not elected it's just part of our system. Right? And what they did in that system, of course, we have the district court, then we have the appellate court, and then we have the Supreme Court. So again, it's just like people won't speak about it, but it's like the stupidest thing in the world. Oh, an unelected judge. If you study how our government was formed, and I guess you really don't want to do that, you'll find that the purpose is to make sure what you're all trying to do outside the law doesn't exist. They're not trying to stop anything. There's ways to do it lawfully. I don't know what the answer is. I personally believe if you can prove that somebody is Tren de Arega, and well, I guess, right. So the one problem is okay. So, well, incarceration conditions are issues. So you want to deport them. You deport them to the third country. Right. Is that lawful? Mm-hmm. Well, the deportation law, how did they do? What's the history on the deportation law that they used? How did they implement that? How did they deport them? Did they just put them across the border? Did they send them to their homeland? See, what you're doing is you're taking a step where you deport them to a third nation to be incarcerated. You are responsible for that incarceration. See, that's where the law and what you're actually doing might diverge. So again, I don't know who appointed him as obviously a Democratic Party president. So that judge, that's what my brother said he was saying is, are you actually following the law? Prove to me you're following the law. Now, as far as it only applying to 5 people, that's BS. It applies to the entire crew, actually. They're just not on the case. Well, the entire process can be found fouled, and then none of them. Because, like I just said, what you're doing is you're incarcerating them in a third country at a high level of incarceration. The law itself doesn't, I don't think, speaks to incarceration. I think it speaks to deportation. Kind of like, again, you're saying there's something. How do you get to that point of proving they're it? Do you prove it, or do you have to prove it? And then even if you don't prove it, the law says deportation. Deportation is not incarceration. So what you have to do is you have to go back to the original application of that law and see what they were doing. I doubt they were sending them to be incarcerated in a third nation. Although maybe you can find that. I don't know. Mm. So again, I try to find. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if we could actually find what they actually did with that law. What was the process? Well, because you're not just deporting somebody to their homeland, or even like putting them across the border. I don't know if that's what they did. I don't know what deportation was. When deportation, when that was created, may have been just plopping them into Mexico. I don't know. So again, it doesn't look like it's definitely what it actually looks like is CIA stuff. That's what CIA does. Right. They'll put them into a third country, and they got a little trouble for it, I think. Well, you have to figure out what the law actually says, and I don't think it's because you're not just deporting somebody; you're incarcerating somebody. I'll actually look at the law now. I guess I spent a few minutes there. The law President Trump is using to deport Tren de Arrega to El Salvador. Political dissent. They may not have actually followed the law there. Another 6,000 German enemy aliens. Now, most were monitored, were arrested, and sent to internment camps in Georgia and Utah. That doesn't mean that they followed the law. Yeah, they detained them. I don't know if detention is part of the law. I mean, initial detention, obviously, but. And again, there was real war there. Let's see what it says. Okay, right. So what you're actually doing is you're incarcerating them in a third country. I don't think you can do that. Well, I think that part of the act. There's other acts that are no longer enforced, no longer exist. They dated or dated. Well, the Alien Sedition Act, I think, is different. The Alien Sedition Act. The Alien Sedition Act. It's the same one. I thought it was different. Yeah, I think you can deport them, and you can incarcerate them until deportation. But I don't think you can. Well, as far as putting them in a third country, I don't think you can do that. Right. Under that, you could probably do it under something else. But again, as far as turning them over for incarceration without a trial, I don't know if you can do that. Well, again, the part where you turn it over to a third nation like that, I think that's where the step too far is. Thank you, Larry. Well, again, you're invoking an 1890 law or whenever, or actually, no, it was that last season. What is it? It's a much earlier law. This one. 1798 law. I think the part where you send them to a third country to be incarcerated without an end date is probably right. It's probably no. Well, it actually what they did in incarcerating Japanese and Germans may have actually been outside the law. Because I think the law's goal is deportation. Well, of course, they'd rather be interned maybe than deported to those countries. So again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's. There's no congressional declaration of war. Well, like I said, before you did it, if you could prove unlawful enemy combatant status in some way, then you, because that's how the Bush administration did something similar. But again, we realized they were pretty big players. Correct. But yeah, I think your answer, as I said before, is to make deals with Maduro and get this over with. Right. Well, when you get out, you didn't just deport them. Again, deportation is kind of an exit order, or you help them across the border. What you did is you sent them to a third nation. And that third nation incarcerates them immediately. So obviously, you're in on it. It's kind of a CIA thing, you know. Well, I don't think the law was created to incarcerate indefinitely. I think it was to incarcerate until deported. I think you could detain them, quite possibly, but I don't know if you could send them to. Alien Enemies Act. Okay, right. So there's Alien Seditions Act and there's Alien Enemies Act. Or acts. They expired. So the Alien Enemies Act appears to be a deportation act that officials used to detain. In other words, we'll detain you, or they also use to control, like you will register with us. So then we won't deport you. So that may actually be a manipulation of the law. Well, what you're all doing is you're looking at how they, in the past, used the law. And again, there was big war and all that, so it was a little bit different. The nation was mobilized for war, so the nation was completely behind it. Right. Well, right. What you're seeing is an application of the law that probably wasn't tested. Nobody sued. Right. So you're looking at historical use of it, but that was never tested. Like if you could probably, if you were to take that before the Supreme Court, the Japanese and the German internments were probably illegal.
Yes, sir.
Yes. See, it says the president could authorize the arrest, relocation, or deportation. Okay, I see. Wait, again, actually, I want to see the wording because that's what it's interpreted as. Oh, gosh. I'm not going to read that. Iris.